Warning, Hebrews Toys Reviews is not intended for children. It is for adult collectors and the people over the age of 18.
Hey everybody, Hero77 here, and welcome to yet another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle review, as we are on day number 5, count 'em 5, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle month. And today we will be talking about the Master, the Sensei, the zing to the zang, the yin to the yang. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about Master Splinter himself, otherwise known as Amato Yoshi. But before we get to the review, let's take a look at a little bit of history of the most important, what I consider the most important character in Ninja Turtle lore. Lore? Lore? Like Data's brother? Oh well. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Okay, now a little brief history on Splinter. According to whatever media you watch, in the cartoon, Splinter was a human who, when he was slimed with the mutagen, became a rat because the rat was the last thing he came in contact with. However, in the original movie, from I think it was 1988 or 1989. I think 1989. He was always a rat. He was a rat that learned his master's technique from inside his cage, and then just became a full-size rat that could walk and talk and do ninjutsu. In the Michael Bay movie, Splinter, I think again was always a rat, and then he learned ninjutsu by reading from a book, which really, when you think about it, how much different is that than mimicking someone's movements from inside your cage to reading a book? We're really splitting the hairs there, but as you saw in the Karate Kid, learning from a book is no way to learn karate. But moving on, especially if you're supposed to be a master at something. I mean, you can't be a master learning from a book. But anyway, I digress. I think in other medias, he was human as well, and then turned into a full-size rat. Maybe somewhere down the line in the comic books. But anyway, that is the short end of it. And so with all of that out of the way, now on with the review.
And now with the history out of the way, here's a look at 1988 Master Splinter. Here you have 1988 Master Sensei Splinter in his nice purple robe with the rat tail, which helps him stand up, by the way. I like this. You can kind of use it as a figure stand. As you can see here, let me get a zoom in on this. Very nice. And Master Splinter, as you saw in my history report, became the sensei, the teacher of the turtles. Real and what's normal. But now he's mutant. You know, Splinter's the teacher, they are the students. Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello make up the team with one other fellow, well, you know the rest. Anyway, so you got Master Splinter here, which is somewhat a about Splinter here is he is a lot different from the turtles themselves. He's got some colors on him that really makes him pop, including his I don't know, gi or robe, whatever you want to call it. His belt has no room for weapons, as you know, but it seems like here they were making sort of an effort to put stuff
You know, you kind of put stuff down in here. And of course, Splinter wouldn't be Splinter without his cane. What I have here, let's lower the camera just a little bit. There we go. What I have here isn't exactly the cane. Again, I am missing the piece of the cane that makes it the cane. But this is a weapon here of a true ninja master. If you've ever seen the movie Blind Fury, you got a cane here, right? This is the cane. You have an ordinary cane. And again, this just wouldn't be one of my Ninja Turtle reviews if I didn't use a weapon from the 2002 toy line. We have a cane, looks like an ordinary cane. Well, it's not. You pull it out and voila, it becomes a dagger of death. If you ever seen the movie Blind Fury, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't think you can get a really good sense. There you go. The 2002 version is slightly better with the silver blade. Gives it more colors, makes it pop better. If you haven't seen Blind Fury, by the way, go check it out. That's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's a little cheesy in places, but I don't know. I like it. Anyway, moving on to the figure before we get to more weapons. He has no mask. Let's see. Move the camera up a little bit. You can see the white eyes. He's got white eyes, a longer snout than most of the turtle figures. There's a little bit of dark, sort of like get him in light, get him in light. A little bit of dark colors there on the snout. And he's got the rat teeth, of course. And you would think they would have given Splinter some pupils, since he was once human, but I digress. Now, you do have a little bit more movement for Splinter's arms, as they do move up and down, much like the turtles. Giving him a little bit of leeway. It seems like he's got a little bit more, well, maybe not. His hands, forearms, actually the whole forearm turns at 360 on both hands, both forearms. So instead of just the hand, you got the entire forearm, which turns all the way around. His head turns all the way around. Legs pretty much the same way with the turtles, although he is kind of harder to sit down. As you can see here, though, he is at a perfect sit. Design, he's got sort of the Japanese kind of not shoes but shoes, the wrappings around his leg, which is oddly enough the same color as his tail. Let's take a closer look at the tail. As you can see, the gray goes about halfway up to where the brown meets on that. And then he has, as opposed to the turtles, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And I think he has actually 5 fingers, because he was once human. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. And I don't know if he's... And of course, when we get to the humans, I will bring up this fact again, which the only subhuman, the only human that I have that's not Shredder, is April O'Neil. And when we get to April O'Neil, we're going to make that our own thing. I don't have Vernon or the Boss or any of those other subhumans, but I do have Casey Jones. So when I get to April O'Neil and Casey Jones, I will talk about these things. Now, getting back to Splinter here, as you can see, he has on the robe a belt, which is does not have his initial on it. It goes all the way around, and it's just a plain black belt. It does not hold any of his weapons. Some of the weapons that were included with Splinter was this bow and arrow. Now, with that being said, we'll do a little bit of comparison here. The 2003 Splinter, which they made him look more like a rat. He has pretty much the same articulation. There's not much movement in the arms.
However, instead of making the whole farm posable, they only did with the hands. And with the hands, once again, you have, instead of having 5 fingers, which they did with the original Splinter, you only have 4 fingers on that hand. I think that's an interesting choice, as well as 4 toes. And of course, instead of a purple robe, we now have a brown robe, because they were trying to go with a more realistic looking look of the figures. And Splinter in this variation is gray. He doesn't have protruding rat teeth. His snout isn't as long. You actually have like a little, let me zoom in here, a little goatee there, as you can see, and the eyes this time have pupils. So you turn it all the way around. The only thing with this Splinter, I think I broke off the tail. There is no tail on this one, but he did have a very long protruding tail. The only thing I don't like is there's no wraparounds on the feet. Other than that, I think he's a pretty cool, decent figure. And he came with cane, of course. Let's zoom back out. Alright. He came with this cane, of course, which I mentioned earlier. And is the bow that he came with, this bow and arrow. And of course, you put this and this little notch here, and it goes back. Let me show you. Got your bow and arrow, right? And you put it in this little, there, like that. Like that. And then you pull the bow back, and voila, there you have it. This is a little bit of a longer review than I was going to do. Of course, we're covering, you know, the main dude, like the teacher, the sensei. You know, this is a longer review, and there's much more to talk about. And by the way, speaking of talking about stuff, I could not find this in our Donatello review, but here is the original bow for Donatello, which is on this weapons tree, the accessory tree, I should say. And all of the weapons that Donatello came with are still on the tree, as a matter of fact. So I think I'm going to leave them on the tree. I never talked about this weapon, by the way, which I do have more of. So you see, he came with the staff, and of course this one. These weapons I talked about before, the Chinese stars. And what more can I say about Splinter? He's an awesome figure. And if you don't have him in your Ninja Turtle collection, you don't have a complete collection. Even if you got all 4 turtles and maybe even April and Casey Jones. But yeah, so highly recommend this figure. And that pretty much does it for this review. Well, there you have it. If you had a gloomy case of the Mondays, hopefully this review lifted your spirits up a little bit and got you back on track for the week with this review of 1988's Master Splinter, Amato Yoshi, our Master Splinter to Amato Yoshi to Master Splinter again. It can be a bit confusing, especially when you get into movie continuity. But according to cartoon continuity, he was a Amato Yoshi, and then he became a rat because that was the last thing he was in contact with, even though he was in contact with the turtles. Anyway, that's where things can get a little dicey. Tomorrow is Taco Tuesday, and of course that means we will be reviewing the baddest baddie of them all. Close second to Skeletor, of course. And I'm talking about a guy whose name reminds you of a kitchen utensils, the Shredder. That'll be tomorrow. That's Tuesday, as Turtle Month continues. Until then, this has been Hebro77 saying, knowing isn't just half the battle, it's the whole damn war. See you then.